Here, he looks at us. And from here, he watches over the city. He is the true center of the city. Around him, the canals form their half-circles. Atlas, the man who supports the globe of the heavens. Amsterdam mothers warn their children that if Atlas drops his ball, heaven will come crashing down on us. As if Amsterdam were the center of the world. To Amsterdammers, of course, that's exactly what it is. And in the 17th century, the Golden Age, it was a proven fact, which is grandly expressed by this hall, itself the size of a 10-story building. Here we are in the heart of Amsterdam, the Citizens Hall, or Burgerzaal, in the Royal Palace on Dam Square. On the outside, the building looks grim and unwelcoming. There should be a door somewhere over here. Wherever it is, it's closed. Small wonder that the building has been called the house without an entrance. For a palace, this building is unusually close to the people. No spacious lawns, no long stately driveways, and no way to enter or leave secretly. Very odd. Wandering around the first floor, it's easy to see that the interior is mainly on exhibition. All rooms and halls open into each other, and they are all situated on the street side of the building, even the royal apartments. One thing is clear. Nobody lives in this palace. But then, this palace wasn't built to be a palace. In the 17th century, it was built to be the Town Hall of Amsterdam. The palace is still in use. And of course, there are certain facilities, like a lunchroom for the staff. Here too, we find decorations on the ceilings. But when we take a better look, the decorations are a little odd. Pincers, thumb screws, torture instruments. It's clear that once upon a time, other activities took place in this room. During the town hall days, this room was the torture chamber. Here, people who were suspected of serious crimes were interrogated and judged, and if they didn't confess soon enough, there were ways to make them. We keep finding signs that point to the time when this building was the town hall, doors behind which all kinds of municipal and legal affairs were conducted. Bankruptcies were issued in this room, symbolized by Icarus, who flew too high, then lost his wings and plummeted to the earth. In the 17th century, Amsterdam was a thriving city. Dam Square was the center of all activities. Smaller vessels could land here. There was a weighhouse, and behind it, a small town hall. During the 80 Years' War with Spain, an enormous number of refugees settled here. Within 1 century, Amsterdam's land surface increased 6 times in size. Amsterdam needed a large town hall. The architect was Jaap van Kampen, and construction started in 1648. It became the largest secular building in the known world. 13,659 piles were driven for its foundation. Shiploads of sandstone were purchased and tons of marble were used for the floors, walls, beautiful decorations and sculpture. These sculptures and wall ornaments were mainly the work of this man, Artis Quilleen, a sculptor from Antwerp. The quality of his work is still astonishing. Here, the palace fulfills one of its present-day duties. Diplomats gather to wish the Queen and each other a Happy New Year. Even during a mild winter, it takes 2 weeks of heating before the halls are warm enough to accommodate the guests. During the town hall years, this was a public space. The Amsterdam burghers came here every day for business, meetings, or because the weather was foul. They brought their children or dog, and they could gape forever at the decorations and statues created by Artis Quilleen and his staff. These statues were not created solely for decoration and entertainment. Each one had at least one allegorical meaning. The sculptures in the upper corners of the Burgerzaal are part of a miniature universe. The 4 elements are symbolized in various ways: earth, fire, air, water. And there were other symbols depicting good government, justice and caution, for instance. There were many paintings in the town hall. Here we see the largest one, painted by Jaap de Wit, depicting Moses choosing the 70 elders. In 1980, in front of this painting, Queen Juliana abdicated from the throne in favor of the present queen, Beatrix. During the town hall years, this room was the chamber of the city council, an advisory board that served the burgomasters of Amsterdam. The reliefs on both sides of the fireplace are paintings. People called them grisees or witjes, after Jaap de Wit, who painted them. His grisees were famous for their sensation of depth. Daily life looks rather easygoing in the old etchings. In the magistrate's chamber, apparently everyone could loaf around and chat, even during a formal sitting of the court. This chamber was also full of decorations. Here is a frieze with the Israelites worshipping the golden calf. Over the mantel is a large painting by Ferdinand Boll showing Moses with the 10 Commandments. To honor the court of justice in the town hall, the door to this court is crowned by justice. She tramples covetousness and envy beneath her feet. Covetousness is symbolized by King Midas with his donkey ears. Envy is the old woman with snakes in her hair, symbols of her spiteful thoughts. To the right of justice sits punishment. She threatens with a knee breaker. And to the left, death is waiting. These are symbols of time. The god Saturn shows us how time devours its own hours. Why is this man gnawing at a newborn baby? Literally, because age feeds on youth. Therefore, his place is near the entrance to the bell tower. The royal palace nowadays functions often as a center for cultural events, even at the very top. Prince Claus, the prince consort, opens the European Year of Music. This is Venus, goddess of love, with her sons Cupid and Anthros. The door next to her leads to the Chamber of Matrimony. In every corner of the galleries are sculptures depicting classical gods. In addition to serving as planets in the miniature universe, these gods symbolize the functions of the rooms near them. They are directional signposts, at least for people who knew their classics. But first and foremost, they are beautiful and detailed enough to invite a longer look. On this stunning pedestal stands Diana, goddess of the hunt. Beside her is the door to the treasurer's office, where taxes were collected. Mercury, god of eloquence, dexterity, and commerce, is guarding the stairs to the Bank of Exchange and the mint ovens. Cybele, Mother Earth, stands near the orphans' chamber, as she is the only mother that is left to them. This is Jupiter, god of thunder, near the stairs to the Council of War and the city armory. Over the door to the council chamber is Amsterdam, flanked by strength and wisdom. She holds olive branches in her hand as a symbol of peace. Lofty symbols for lofty government. Of course, the Amsterdammers did not always agree, and the way they expressed their feelings has never changed over the centuries. Even now, the palace is the place where people go to express their discontent. A strange custom, since there is no government left here to receive the message. In the cellar were the dungeons. But through the ages, something happened to the function of these little rooms. That was the work of this man, Louis Napoleon. His brother had made him King of Holland in 1806. He was a sickly and suspicious man who, in spite of these drawbacks, turned out to be a conscientious and capable administrator. In a couple of years' time, he changed the whole concept of power and justice in Holland. Here he arrives with his courtiers at the town hall, which he established as one of his palaces. And so the town hall was elevated to palace. Sometimes it really looks like one, as when Queen Beatrix dines with the corps diplomatique. These crystal chandeliers remain from the days of Louis Napoleon. In a few months' time, he had the interior of the town hall changed into empire, the official style of the French court. Faux marbled wooden walls divided the galleries into salons and dining rooms. The Burgersaal became the great receiving hall, sometimes the royal ballroom. On a very rushed schedule, Dutch cabinet makers had to produce an endless array of side tables, chairs, and other furniture. Hence, the palace contains the largest collection of empire furniture and artifacts outside France. But a town hall is not so easily converted to a palace, especially not in the eyes of Hortense de Beauharnais, the only queen who ever lived here. The emperor had ordered her to marry Louis Napoleon against her will. Even more reluctantly, she became Queen of Holland. Her new surroundings did not please her at all. This was the door to the Queen's apartment. Dead babies, skulls, and wolves. The allegorical meaning of the sculpture had a special significance for her. Hortense had lost her eldest son before coming to Amsterdam. Each time she entered her rooms, she was reminded of her grief. She complained about this in letters to friends and relations, and about the stench of the canal outside her window. This palace was not fit for a queen. After only a couple of weeks, distaste conquered obedience. She fled back to Paris. During the town hall centuries, this was the place where death sentences were handed down in full view of the public. This was, in fact, a sham, for the real sentencing had already been done in private court sessions. But the public had the right to ascertain if justice had been done, and therefore the whole procedure was acted out in this room, the Vierschaar. The backdrop was these three scenes of justice: mercy, wisdom, and righteousness. Everybody knew these scenes from the Bible or from classical teachings, and they are probably the best work artist Colleen ever did. This is the famous Judgment of Solomon. Two women fight over a child. King Solomon decides the child should be divided, and thus reveals the true mother. The other two scenes are from the classics. The mercy of King Seleucus, who has to condemn his son, a rapist, to lose both his eyes. To save his son from total blindness, Seleucus sacrifices one of his own eyes. Here we see the righteousness of Lucius Junius Brutus. His sons are sentenced to death for treachery. He does not hesitate and does what is just. The criminal knelt in front of the secretary's seat to have the sentence read to him. In silence, the sculpture played its part. The snake reminded him that he should have known the difference between good and evil. The crying babies represent the suffering innocents. The caryatids bend their heads in shame. When the execution was to take place, a scaffold was fitted to the front of the building. There the criminal was executed or put in the pillory. After Louis Napoleon, the palace remained unchanged for almost a century. In 1936, the first attempts were made to restore the interior back to its town hall period origins. The building continues even now to be in the hands of restorers from the cellars to the wind vane. Today, the use of the building has become increasingly cultural. Exhibitions, award ceremonies, cultural performances, and tours of the building itself. Little by little, the palace regains its old accessibility. Now, everyone can enter the palace, if only as a tour day visitor, or when invited, as here at the award ceremony of the Royal Grant of Modern Painting. And so the building tries hard to live up to its new life. Queen Beatrix and her husband leave by the back door to go and live in a more comfortable palace elsewhere. And the palace stays behind, a little obstinate, a little maladjusted. In short, A real Amsterdammer. Once you take the time to get acquainted, you're hooked. You start loving it. This heart of Amsterdam.